Okay, so this is gonna be a lot of fun. So, all right, a couple of quick things here, and we'll dive right in. Just so you know, I am recording this, so you will have access to it later on someone's YouTube channel. We'll see where that's at. Quick things about me. I'm Adam. I'm one of the co-founders of 48 and 48. I've been a part of every event so far. I have no idea how many we've had. I really should know that, but I do not. So, but I've been a part of all of them. And I'm usually on Slack answering questions and just trying to help out wherever I can. So thank you all for being here and for being willing to be a part of this next event. You're going to make a huge difference. You know, nonprofits are so websites are so critically important to nonprofits. And a nonprofit really can't live up to its potential if it does not have a solid website that tells its story, that validates it in the eyes of potential donors and users and people. And what you're going to be doing at this next weekend is really going to make a tremendous impact for those nonprofits. So thank you for taking the time. So, all right, with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. Let me grab my screen here, and we're just going to get started. So the first thing I want to show you is that 48 and 48 does have a knowledge base. Oh, I'm not in the main knowledge base. Let me fix that. So we do have a knowledge base. We try to put things in here that are kind of the basic questions that we see and get asked a lot. So there's, 30 or 40 articles in here, where to find stock photography images, for example. And you can see that right here in the stock photography. So we've got links to great stock photography websites that you can use the images for free and not have any fear that the nonprofit's going to get hit with any copyright issues. We've also got, articles about 301 redirects if you want to get into that kind of gobbledygook, though I don't really think you'd want to do that in this particular event, but you could. But most importantly, I'll start with the knowledge base article about your homepage. And so to do that, you can either look for it or you can just type in homepage or home. So step one, how to start your homepage layout. So you can see that the knowledge base has a really nice search feature. This one's been viewed 3,024 times. It's got 9 thumbs up, so that's great. It's effective. So I'll click into that just to quickly show you, and then I'll end up walking you through this in a minute. But it basically just walks you through 2 options for a homepage. And again, I'm going to walk you through that in just a minute. So I'll kind of skip right now, but I just wanted to show you that article. So this is what you're going to be starting with. This is the sort of staging site or the starting point for your website for your nonprofit. It's profoundly ugly. And that's okay because we're just getting started. So you can accept the cookies, and then you can you'll see that it's just super gray, and we're going to change all that. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to log in to the website. So to do that, you're going to go up here after the .org and type in /WP-admin. And that's going to take you to the login screen. So whatever your staging site is, after the .org, type in /WP-admin, and you'll see it forwards you to this login.php. That's fine. And then you'll see the redirect here. So I'm going to log in. It auto-populates with my user and everything. And now I'm in the back end of the website. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through the basics of what's in the back end of the website here. And then I'm going to start walking you through piece by piece. And again, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer all those at the end. Just make a note if you would as I'm talking, and I'll make sure to circle back to any of those questions at the end, and we can have a nice chat about it. So this is the back-end admin area for the website. You'll see most everything you need is going to be on the left here. So media, this is where you're going to add images. I was talking to somebody beforehand, and you do not want to add videos to the websites. It slows them down and makes them hard to deliver. And sometimes there's compatibility issues. So I would not recommend putting videos in the sites, but you can add images. And when you do add images, it's also a good idea to make sure to squish the images down, shrink them down so they're smaller size. If you want to do that, you can go to a site called squoosh.app and use that to reduce the image sizes before you put them into the website. That's just always a general best practice. It'll make the sites move much faster, and it'll improve their SEO stuff. Pardon me, I'm going to go shut my door. My teenager is loud. One moment here. Sorry. Dude, you got to be quiet. And we're back. Sorry about that. Someone opened my office door and my teenage son outside is being very, very loud. So, all right, back on the back end here. So we've got posts. This is where blog posts are, media, forms. We're going to get through that in just a minute. Pages. This is where you go to see all of the pages of the website. You're really not going to be messing with most of this other stuff, maybe a little bit in Beaver Builder and looking at some themer layouts. We could talk about that in a few minutes. I will show you plugins in a minute. And you're probably not going to be messing with settings too much. So this is just the basic dashboard. So let's go ahead and start, if we can, with the homepage layout. So what's really important in a 48 and 48 event is to start with an existing homepage layout. It's very tempting to try to sort of start with a blank canvas instead and kind of build what you envision in your mind. The problem with that is the tool set that we use is often not quite as advanced, or we're not quite advanced enough to build what you might envision. And a lot of times if teams do that, it ends up kind of being a little bit clunky and problematic. And so you want to start with a layout and then you want to customize that layout in order to adapt it to what's going to work best for the nonprofit. So to do that, this is the way that I recommend. There's two methods for this. And you'll see this right here in the homepage. There's option 1, which I'm not going to show you. Those layouts are okay, but they're a little more limited. I'm going to show you option 2, which is kind of starts here, and then this article right here, this link actually shows you all the details. So, but I'm just going to walk you through it. So to do option 2 for homepage layouts, I'm going to go to Settings, then I'm going to go to Power Pack. So that's the layout tool that we're going to use. At the top, you'll see a link for templates right here. So I'm going to click on templates. And you'll notice that we've got 192 page templates, which is pretty fantastic. That means there's a lot of variety here. And so you can really choose a layout that really fits the personality and style and structure that your nonprofit needs for their website. So I'm going to go to Filter, and I'm just going to go to Home to see only the home pages. So you can see I've got a lot of homepage layout options. I mean, just a ton. And if I'm building a site for a nonprofit, the first thing I want to do is understand, like, how am I telling the story through the website for this nonprofit? Do I need a really large image at the top, for example, like this one, where, and I'll hit preview and see it a little more detailed. So do I need a large image with a nice positioning statement at the top and a call to action? And then maybe the nonprofit has 4 specific areas that they want to focus on. So this might be perfect. And maybe you take that and you change out the colors and you change out the background images, but maybe that's a good option for you, right? So just kind of think of it in terms of what does the nonprofit need and which of these layouts might fit that need. So for example, this is another great example. So maybe there's a call to action, need a little more words right here, but the nonprofit, let's say maybe they have 3 areas they work in. Maybe they work in food, health, and education, magically, who knows? This might be a great layout for that. So let's say I find this layout, it's fantastic. I want to work with it. I'm going to go ahead and click Activate. Okay. And this is where it gets a little confusing because I've activated the layout, but it's not really active. It's just now available to me. And so let me show you what that means. So I'm going to go back out. I'm actually going to click up here in the top left to go to the front end of the website into the homepage. And you'll see now I'm looking at our beautiful homepage. I'm going to click Beaver Builder, and this allows me, I can click Beaver Builder or Home right here, but Beaver Builder. I'm going to click that. Oops, wrong thing. And that's going to take, Beaver Builder is the page builder that is built on top of WordPress that allows you to do front-end page editing. So it's what allows me to edit this text right here on the front end of the site rather than having to go into a page on the back end of the site. It's a little easier to use and navigate. So I'm going to go over here and click this. This is the button where you're going to add modules for Beaver Builder. So the plus button does that, gives you access to all of the modules. I'm going to go for Power Pack modules. Oh, actually, you know what? It's not modules that I need here. I'm trying to do a full template. I forgot. So I'm going to go to templates instead. So these are the landing page templates that are built into Beaver Builder. That's option 1 that I mentioned earlier. They're pretty good. They're not bad at all. I just don't love them. So I'm going to go here, and instead I'm going to go to Power Pack Layouts. And you'll see this is the theme that I activated earlier. So now I activated it in the back end. Now I have access to it on the front end. You can also activate more than one if you want to try out different options and see which one you like. You can activate 3 or 4 and test them out. That's fine. So I'm going to click on this. and I want to replace the existing layout. So that means it's going to scrap absolutely everything on this page. It's going to all go away, and now this new layout's going to be there. If I append the new layout, it would put the new layout below all of the other content on the page, which just happens to be that home and that welcome phrasing. So I'm going to replace existing layout. Okay. And now we have a really nice laid out website that is kind of beautiful to look at and already has all of the stuff kind of built in. It's got the call to actions built in. Those are the buttons for read more or for donate. It's got all the things. And now I can pick and choose what I want to keep and what I want to get rid of. So this kind of flows into the next stage of this conversation, which is a quick tutorial on Beaver Builder. So you'll notice as I'm moving around, you'll see the blue box pop up over various things. That means I can edit that thing. So if I want to edit, we can make smiles. For example, I click on this blue box, and right here, the title is We Can Make Smiles. And so if I let's say I want to change that to frowns because I'm in a bad mood. I don't know. That's a terrible idea. We can make frowns. Let's not do that, but we can. But we just change it there, and you hit save, and that's it. You're done. If you want to change that lorem ipsum, you can do that as well. So that would be, you just have to scroll down and find it right here, and whoops. This is where you edit things. You can change the button wording. You can change the link to the button. You can change the style of the button, though I would be careful about changing styles too much other than colors. So let's say this is a great button. It fits your nonprofit really well, but it's really not the right color. So under style right here, you can scroll down and you should be able to find, let's see. Yep, there it is. Background color. Maybe your nonprofit's background color is blue. Hopefully they're going to give you some kind of hex code, or you can pull that from their existing site possibly. But let's say it's blue. We changed it to blue, and now we're good to go. So you can see it's really easy to make lots of edits through that. So I would basically just work my way down the page. I'd do the layout. I'd work my way down the page, editing it to fit the nonprofit's needs. And then if there's a section that you don't want, you can just hit this X right here and remove it, and it'll just be completely gone. It goes away entirely. Or maybe there's a section that you think, maybe we'll use it, but not right now. So maybe you just want to hide it. So you can do that too. Hit this row settings button under advanced, visibility, okay? So this is visible at all breakpoints, meaning it's visible on large devices, medium devices, and small devices. You could change it to be only visible on small devices, which would be phones. That's fine. You can also change this right here, display. It's display always. You can have it display for a logged in user only, or just display never. And so if I have display never, what that does, you'll see right here, there's an eyeball in the top right of this box, and that lets me know that this will never be displayed on the front end of the site, but it's still there, so I haven't lost it if I wanted to just hide it for a set period of time. So that can be a pretty handy thing to do. So when you're all done, you've been working in it, and by the way, only one person can work inside of a page at a time. So that's a really important thing to know. And when you're done, get done. And go ahead and hit publish. A lot of teams end up hitting save draft. Don't do that. Just hit publish so everybody can see the work that you're doing, because this is a staging site anyway. So it's totally fine for you to go ahead and publish the work that you're doing so everybody can see what's going on. So go ahead and hit publish and you're good to go. So that's kind of page editing basics for Beaver Builder. I'm sure you'll have some questions for the Q&A, but I'm going to go ahead and move on to headers and footers, and then we're going to talk about forms and some other things. So this header is just profoundly ugly. I mean, that gray is just not going to work at all. Change this logo. Is a terrible logo. So to change that, I'm going to mouse over. I'm back on the front end of the site. I'm not in the back end. You can see this is just the s1.48and48.org. I'm going to mouse over Beaver Builder. I see that because I'm logged in. If I did not see that, that would mean I'm not logged in. So I'm logged in. I can see that. And I'm going to click main header. And that's going to allow me to edit this main header. And the same way that you can edit the page through Beaver Builder, you can edit the header through Beaver Builder. So you can change this logo right here, or you can click this little row settings and decide to change your row. So you can change the colors here. Let's see, there's the colors right there. So you can change the colors. That's a terrible color. I don't know why it's only grays. I'd have to figure that one out. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we can make it a nice lime green because, I mean, just everybody loves lime green, right? You know. Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. Well, that's very strange that my video is lagging. I'm sorry about that. So are you able to see the header now? Is it lagging that badly? Okay, gotcha. All right, I'll try to keep it slow then. But thank you for that heads up. Perfect. All right, so that's the header. Same thing for the footer. Same process. Now let's say you want to change this menu. This can be a little confusing because the menu items are coming in from the main nav, which is handled somewhere else. So in the header, you're editing the look and feel of the menu. You're not editing the menu items themselves, which again is kind of confusing. So let me show you where that's at just so you don't get confused. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this just again to always show my work. And then to edit the menu, I'm going to click on this top left to go into the back end of the site, back into the dashboard. And then I'm going to mouse over appearance and I'm going to click on menus. And so that's where you actually edit the menu items themselves, is under appearance and in menus. And you'll see here now I've got my main nav menu selected, and you can see home and contact. You can rearrange those just by dragging and dropping, or you can add new pages from this left-hand side if there were new pages to add, which there are not currently. We do get a lot of questions about how do you have a top-level menu item that is not clickable, but just supports having submenus underneath it. That's a very common question. So just to show you that really quick, the way you would do that is go here to custom links, and you'd make the URL just a hashtag. So it's not clickable. Nothing happens when it's clickable. And then you would make the link text top level menu item is what I'm going to make this text. And then you'd add that to the menu. And so what that would allow you to do is then create submenus underneath that. And so let's say, for example, I wanted to make contact a submenu of this top level menu item. So I click in and drag it, and I would indent it just a little bit. And you see how it just kind of bumps over a hair. And now that's a submenu item of top level menu item, if that makes sense. So that's just a quick how that works. And again, it's all pretty straightforward, and there are some articles about menus in the knowledge base as well. Next, I want to talk about forms. If you're going to do forms on the website, we always recommend using Gravity Forms. There are other options. We just find that Gravity Forms are the most robust and customizable of everything, and it just makes life easier if everybody kind of uses the same thing. So I'm gonna go over here and just kind of show you a couple of basics for forms. The nice thing about Gravity Forms is it's really, really easy to build a form very quickly. So I'm going to just show you on the fly. Let's add a new form. So we'll call this new form, and we'll create it. And over here on the right are all of the options. So I've got standard fields, I've got advanced fields, and then there's a bunch of other stuff that you're probably not going to use. So I always start with advanced fields because it gives me this nice thing like name. So I can grab this, I can click and drag it over into the form, and now the form asks for a user's first name and last name. I can also say, click and drag in address. I can click and drag in email. And then let's say I want to make email required. So then I just click on email, and right here on the right, you can see there are all the different options, and I can make email required, and then I can save the form. So if you're going to put a form on a website, you have to create the form in Gravity Forms. Then you go to the front end of the website, and let me show you how to place the form on the actual page. So I'm going to click on Pages. And this is just another way to get around. You don't have to do it this way. You could go to the front end and click to the page you want and then click Beaver Builder. Or you can click on Pages and select the page you want as well. It's totally up to you. On Pages, you can see as I mouse over each page, contact, homepage, there is an option for Beaver Builder. So I can jump right into Beaver Builder from here, which is what I'm going to do right now. It's just a slightly faster way to go about it. So let's say I want to add the form I just created to this. This form is not the form I want to use. So I'm going to add a new form. So let's just get rid of this one entirely, so that's not confusing. And then I'm going to click this plus sign, and I'm going to go over to my modules, and I'm going to type in Beaver. Oh, not Beaver, sorry, Gravity. Gravity forms. So now you'll see under Power Pack, there's a Gravity form module. So you got to click and drag that into the page. And then we'll select the form, which is the new form that we just created, and hit save. And now I've got my new form inside of the page where I wanted it to be. So you can also use that style, that Beaver Builder module to style the form. So if you want to do a custom title and description, you can. If you want to hide the labels, you can. You can change the styles, the borders, the padding, the button colors. I mean, you can heavily customize these forms. There's just a ton of stuff you can do with it. I don't recommend doing what I just did, which is where I hid all of the information about the form so it doesn't make any sense. That's probably a terrible idea, but nonetheless, you get the idea. So that's forms. Next, I want to talk about donations. This is a really common one that gets teams really stuck. And so as a general rule of thumb for 48 and 48, we do not want our teams to handle money or access to money or logins to any money accounts or PayPal accounts or anything like that at all. That's just never a great idea. We want to protect our volunteers and protect our nonprofits from that situation. So ideally, donations should really just happen off-site. We should be pushing people to a PayPal page or to some other means for them to give. Give Lively is a fantastic tool that's free to nonprofits that supports giving. So ideally, that's where all the giving would take place, not directly within the context of the website, because there's just a lot of stuff there that we just don't really want to get into. And then that also is kind of similar in some ways for SEO. So a lot of teams get kind of struggle with SEO at the end and feeling like they need to set everything up perfectly. And I would say about SEO, and there are some options there. We have like Rank Math, for example, as an SEO plugin. It's great to get to if you have time during the weekend to get to it. However, a lot of teams don't have that time and should never feel stress if you don't get to that, because really it's all about the website and the storytelling and really creating that connection between users and the nonprofit. SEO is great, but it's really more of a bonus at the end of the event rather than a must-have. So just want to make sure to call that out. So with that said, I think that kind of covers all the basics. Let's start going down let's go for the Q&A here and see what anybody's got. So you just unmute, ask me your question, and I'll show you where it's at or answer the question. Oh yeah, thank you. You're right. I did not cover plugins. I'm terribly sorry. Thank you, Vicky. All right, so plugins. That's incredibly important, and I did not have that written on my note for some reason. So we do have many plugins that you can use to extend the functionality of the website for the nonprofit. So there's a couple of things to note here. The first is that some of these plugins are premium plugins where we have paid for the license. So for example, Beaver Builder is a premium plugin where we've paid for the license. Actually, I think in their case, they might have gifted us the license, but nonetheless, it's a premium license. If the nonprofit chooses to take their website and go host it somewhere else, which they're more than welcome to do for free at any time, they may need to pay for those plugins. So that's just something that's good to know in case they happen to ask you. If they stay on our hosting and support, we cover the cost of those plugins. That's built into the cost of the monthly support for the nonprofit's website. So just kind of bear that in mind. But again, nonprofits can take the sites, zip them up, do anything they want with them. They're not limited in any capacity. They may need to buy a plugin in order to get updates down the road. So some of the plugins are premium. Some of them are free. That's just a heads up there. So you'll see Beaver Builder plugin pro version, right? That's a good example. Don't worry about it not there being a newer version of it. You all don't need to worry about that at all. If you did want to extend the functionality of the website. So let's say you wanted to do a calendar. We do have two events calendars, all in one event calendar. I think it has a few features that the other one doesn't maybe. Personally, I like the other one a little bit better. I think it's called the Events Calendar. I'm going to scroll. Yeah, here it is, the Events Calendar. The Events Calendar is kind of one of the best WordPress plugins. It's been out forever. It just does a really great job. If you're going to do a calendar, I think I'd start with that one first and then see how it works out for you. If you're going to use it, you just find it in your thing. You click Activate. And whenever everything catches up, there we go. It takes you through the setup process, which is kind of great. So, and then you'll also notice now on this left-hand side, underneath post, I now have events. And so it's a whole nother post type that I can manage on the left-hand side of the website. So we've got all kinds of different plugins for all kinds of different purposes. If you don't know what one does, you can read up on it. They're usually pretty easy to find out more about in this view details, for example. So like under Events Manager, if you want to click View Details, you can get more information there. You can also ask on the Slack channel. We're happy to help and give advice there as well. Gravity Forms has quite a few add-ons. For example, like MailChimp. If the nonprofit has a MailChimp account and they want to integrate signups from a Gravity Form into MailChimp and add them to lists, they can do that. There's just lots of different options. GT Translate's a good option for on-the-fly translation if you need to have different languages. I think Polylang is another good one as well. So yeah, that's a great one. Thanks for calling that out, Vicki. Any other questions? Man, that's a really interesting question. No one's ever asked if there was a sandbox available to play with beforehand. So no, so there's not one, but that's not a bad idea, actually. I'll have to think about that. So no, there's not currently a sandbox available. I'll talk to the team and see if that's a possibility for the future, but we're probably a little late in the game for this one. I do not know when the dev site or the staging sites will be set up. I think that's happening over the next couple of days. So Mac might be able to speak to that in more detail, but I don't know that off the top of my head, unfortunately. I'm sorry. It's a really interesting idea, though. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a couple of things. And I'm going to repeat the question because I'm recording this and the recording can't hear you. So the question was, any tips for making sure that the website gets built within the 48-hour period? And yes, several tips for that. So the first is we have a pretty decent timeline laid out inside of the main Trello board that the project managers have access to for your website. And so I think those are getting created now and you'll see those later this week. And so like, for example, like the homepage should be done ideally on Friday night, or at least I'd say 80% done on Friday night and then finished up Saturday morning. Sub pages ideally are done kind of throughout the day Saturday. And then Sunday becomes more about functionality and cleanup, right? So that's the first thing. To kind of give you expectations around a timetable. The second thing is make sure to start with a layout. I mean, that's honestly one of the biggest things, is to make sure you start with an existing layout. Don't try to start from scratch. That's where most of the teams get into the most trouble, is when they try to start from scratch. So if you take the time up front to really choose a layout that works really well for your nonprofit, it's going to actually help you be significantly faster in everything you create from that point forward. I think the third thing is make sure you've got some familiarity with your nonprofit up front, so you don't have to spend too terribly much time on Friday, like really digging in. So maybe just explore their website, Friday morning, for example, or Thursday night, for example, before the event. That usually helps as well. And then I think the last thing is 48 and 48 is you have to be careful not to be overly perfectionist about it. You have to get to the point where the websites are great. They might not be perfect. And for some volunteers, that's a very difficult thing. But that's because there is only 48 hours. You've got to work with what you can, if that makes sense. So that's just the stuff off the top of my head. I hope that's helpful. I wouldn't. I would. I mean, well, I take that back. You could see. I mean, you could sketch something out like very roughly. Like I would, if you wanted to, you could sketch out a very rough wireframe first to understand the components you want. But then I would go to the Power Pack templates and choose one that has all of the elements from that wireframe, and then delete out what you don't need. Because that'll help you move. I mean, infinitely faster than if you try to do a full design and then a build, because I mean, you'd spend 48 hours on just the homepage for that. Yeah. Yeah, of course. All right. Who's next? That's another really good idea that I don't know that we do, but like maybe like a quick, top 10. I'm looking in the knowledge base right now to see, maybe just a quick top 10. Like these are the things that you really need to think of, like know would not hurt at all. Maybe we'll create that in the knowledge base. That's a really good idea. Mac, help me remember that later, okay? You might have more familiarity with Wahi than I do at this point. So we use Wahi as kind of the virtual platform. What's the word? Virtual conference platform, I guess, is maybe the best word for it. It's kind of like Second Life. Essentially, so that's where we'll stream kind of the big events, like the kickoff and the closing. Happens in Wahi. I think it also goes out over YouTube, if I'm not mistaken. But then there's also individual team chat rooms in there that you can hop into and out of. And I kind of think of it as in terms of like if each team had their own like little workroom at a conference center, like that's kind of what these rooms get used as, is you just kind of hop in. Like, so when when you wake up on Saturday morning and you're tired and you just went to bed at 1 a.m. and now it's 9 a.m., just you go hop into your room and you start collaborating with your team at that point in time. So there's that. And then there's also, and there is kind of an FAQ inside of Wahi related to the specific event. So like when different things are happening or a speaker or breakouts or whatever else, all that's, I think, listed inside of Wahi. And then we also do support and there's some degree of other communication on Slack. So we've just found that support over Slack is the most scalable thing. And so we continue to keep that. So there's a support channel in Slack. I think it's called help-support, if I remember correctly. And you can just ping that at any time. And there's usually a team of 4 or 5 of us that are monitoring it at all times and can just answer questions. If you do have a question, there's 2 things you absolutely need to remember. It's critical. Number 1 is start with the URL to the site that you're working on, not the name of the nonprofit, but the URL, because people will all the time be like, oh, I'm working on Dogs for People nonprofit. And I'm like, that's cool. I don't have any idea what that even is or where to find it. What's the URL, right? So make sure you start with the URL, and then clearly state what you're trying to accomplish or what the struggle is. If you can start there, that'll help us really solve those problems very quickly. So. Vicky, is there anything I missed related to Wahi? Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. Yeah, but Zoom breakout rooms that you can jump in and out of really easily. Yep. Yeah, exactly. It'll be really easy for you to navigate and explore. So, no, that's fine. That's totally fine. All right. Any other questions? I did not cover that. Thank you for asking that question. So the question was, is there a set login or are there specific logins? So each team project manager will get a login. Most teams end up sharing that login, and at the end of the event, that login goes away. So that's fine. Obviously, it's not secure for people to share logins, but for the quick 48 hours when nobody knows the link, I think it works fine. So that's usually what happens is the project manager gets the login and then just shares it with the team, and they go from there. You can create individual users for each person if you'd prefer, but you don't have to. Another question I see is, when will we know what teams we're in? I actually don't know the answer to that question. Vicky, do you know, or Mac that's on the call, do you know the answer to that question? It usually happens over the course of the week of the event. We cannot form the teams before the week of the event, or before 2 weeks before either, just because people sign up last minute. So it's usually a kind of ongoing process. Absolutely. All right. Anybody else? Oh, yeah. Somebody just mentioned that their company has a Slack channel for the group, which is great. That's another great way to communicate for sure. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, and the other nice thing about being in Slack is that you can stay in it after the 48 and 48 event and chat with people you've met and see what's going on and what events are coming up and things like that as well, which is kind of nice. You can sort of be a more deep part of the community if you choose to be that way, which is kind of great. And again, that's the only way you're going to find me through for support is through Slack. So, and to be honest, that's because it's just more scalable. We can answer Slack messages much faster. We can thread the replies, and we can just get to the messages much more quick. I mean, I can even be out with my kids if I have to run them somewhere and answer a Slack message from my phone and help with people with problems most of the time. True. Right. So true. Anybody else? Okay. Well, I'll take that as everybody's ready and raring to go for the event, and it's going to be fantastic. So you may not see my face during the event. We'll see. I may drop into a room or two in Wahi here and there, but I will be on Slack for sure. and happy to answer any questions or help any way that I can. No, that's a great thing. All right. Well, I'm going to hang up then. Everybody else, thanks, Mac. I'll get you the video file and you can do what you will with it for this. Thanks. Bye, everybody.